We are beginning the meeting shortly. We are conducting tonight's meeting in person as well as in virtual setting using Zoom. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting tonight on Wave Channel 18 and online through the city's YouTube channel. If you would like to participate in live public comment via the Zoom platform, please refer to the agenda for instructions. Chair Hutchinson will begin the meeting momentarily.
And I would like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order for July 17th for the city of Lincoln. And Secretary, may we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Eklund,
Here.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner McKinney,
Here.
Commissioner Reedy,
Here.
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Here.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes, thank you.
There was notification that Eric Johnson will be absent tonight.
Yes, thank you. And so we do have a quorum. With that, I would like to ask Commissioner Kelly McKinney to lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have any agenda modifications this evening?
Staff does not.
Thank you. Our next item deals with public comments on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for anyone who wishes to make a public comment that is not addressed on our agenda. I don't see anyone in the room. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
I have not received any cards, and there is no one on the Zoom.
Thank you. Are there any informational items from staff to report on?
Yes, I have several.
All right.
I was prompted by Commissioner Reedy this morning to give you guys an update on our downtown plan. We're leaning towards calling it the Downtown Master Plan, but just quickly, next Tuesday at council meeting, we're going to bring the contract forward for Opticos to come on board. It's the full amount, so we were waiting for the state to figure out their budget to see if we had to modify their scope literally in half, but fortunately that didn't happen. So we're excited to kick that off, and we'll get like a chart of our meetings and milestones dialed in August. So we'll keep you abreast of that. Secondly, just another brief update on the Calaga Springs AT&T denial. It looks like we have a way out. I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but we had a successful site meeting on Tuesday where they did find an appropriate site for that. So we saved the water tower. For now. Yeah, knock on wood. And it looks like we're gonna, have a win-win there at McBean Park. Thirdly, our August PC meeting will be canceled. We don't have items. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna kind of hit the books and look at our code, get this downtown plan kicked off. And lastly, hopefully Lindy is online here. Lindy Childers, our engineering manager with the city for the last 12 years, is retiring on August 8th. So I don't know if Lindy's online to confirm. Just say.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yes, my
I
last
want
day.
to thank her for her
August 8th.
service, and she's been wonderful to work with these past 2 years.
Question, if I may ask, regarding the AT&T Calaga Springs. So just a recap, after your commission, denied the appeal, denied the project, the applicant appealed your denial to the city council. And then that kind of precipitated for us to get things going back to the city council for the appeal. But in the meantime, leading up to the city council meeting a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure when, they, with the help of Christine, they were able to, see about looking at this other spot in McBean Park as a means to try and, hit a, find a medium, medium in which they can still be in the city, find a coverage for, for their, what their needs. And, so we're pursuing that location, but so the appeal is kind of on hold until we resolve this other issue, other place, at McBean Park. So it is a win-win, but we're not quite there yet, but, we'll keep on pursuing that, working with the applicant as far as the location, not on the tower, but at the McBean Park, pole somewhere.
Awesome.
Fail, and they won't have an adequate place, and we will continue to save our tower. Yes, Jerry.
Question, we had that agreement of ideals, conduct, struggling for words here, but the
Code of conduct?
code of conduct, and it sort of has fallen somewhere.
Yeah, we'll follow up. I think it's in Sean's court, or we get your comments. We got comments from Michelle and
We did. We received comments. I think what was left was for the city council to adopt the recommendations. And that's where I think staff, we probably just dropped the ball and need to tie a bow on that one. So I'll follow up on that with Sean tomorrow because we have one for every committee in the city. So I'll make sure we close that loop.
I know that I had passed through, Michelle, a kind of a rewrite of it to be more relevant to the planning commission.
And we received it, and I believe that was the version we were going to recommend to city council.
Yes, I had passed it on to Sean, and he and I had met, and
I just want to circle back to Lindy. Lindy, did you want to just say a few words at your last planning commission meeting of your career?
Yeah. It's been a real pleasure serving the city of Lincoln for 11 plus years. And I've seen lots of changes, which has been a really fun way to end my career. It's been just a pleasure serving the community and working in this small city.
well, the best of luck to you. in your
Thank you.
Retirement years.
Thank you.
Have any other comments? Regarding informational items?
I just want to wish Lindy the very best and thank her for all the support to the Planning Commission. There's been a lot of projects she's had to review over the many years I've been on the commission, which is nearly 8 years now. So thank you, Lindy, for all your work.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
The next item is the disclosure of ex parte communication. Do any of my colleagues have ex parte communication? Seeing none, the next would be the consent agreement, the consent item on the agenda, and there are no items on consent at this time. And so that means that we have public hearings, and we have item number 9, which is staff is going to present some information regarding the Lincoln Retirement Resident request for a 2-year time extension. And I believe that from staff, Boniface will give us the information.
Good evening, commissioners. Tonight before you is a 2-year time extension request by Lincoln Retirement Residents. A 2-year time extension to an approved specific development plan and development permit is a request that was timely filed in April of this year before the previous approval had expired. Things went from COVID shutdowns, which prompted the need for this extension. Those work stoppages, this and that, led to non-activity or lack of activity at work sites. And as a result, the developer still needs to finalize project approvals and mobilize resources before construction starts. Building permit plans are currently on hold pending approval of this time extension. The Lincoln Retirement Residence is quite a big facility. It was previously approved as Hawthorne Senior Living. This 153,000 square feet retirement residence offers 155 private suites for seniors. And the residents share common areas for dining, they socialize, and do indoor activities. The project location, this is the project location. And as you can see, there's Bella Breeze Drive over there. This is Red Rock Road. We have 12 Bridges Drive down there, and East Joyner Parkway. I have an approved site plan for you for Lincoln Retirement Residence. In terms of consistency, the project is consistent with the general plan, 12 Bridges Specific Development and General Development Plan, Title 18 of the Lincoln Municipal Code Zoning, Addendum Subsecond to 12 Bridges Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report. And it's still subject, this project is still subject to original conditions of approval, which are to be carried forward. Staff recommendations. Staff recommends the Planning Commission that the Planning Commission finds the project exempt from CEQA or environmental review pursuant to CEQA section 15162. This section has to do with the idea that there was a previous environmental impact report which was certified initially. And now there is no need for another environmental assessment unless a determination has been made that there is substantial evidence that the project has the potential to cause new environmental impacts. Staff also recommends that the Planning Commission adopts a resolution approving a 2-year time extension for Lincoln Retirement Residence Specific Development Plan and Development Permit Design Review Project, subject to specific conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? Yes, John.
One just quick clarification. So the request is for 2 years. In Exhibit A of the original resolution from 2022, it says the Planning Commission may grant a 1-year extension of time. So is there a reason we're asking for 2 versus the one that was originally conditionally approved in 22?
I think there was a mistake there because the request was for a 2-year time extension.
Right. I'm just saying that the original condition, the original resolution approving it said that they could only ask for 1. So I'm just wondering.
I see. There's this thing that at times as staff, we advise developers to at least request more time so that they don't keep coming back. After 1 year, they are back requesting more time. So it should be one of those things that the developer was advised to, instead of requesting 1 year time extension, to request 2.
Mr. Reedy, we've actually had a code change since then.
What I thought is that
Okay.
it had a code change.
Thanks.
Anyone else before I open it to public comments? Seeing none, I will now open it to public comments. Or, excuse me, public hearing. I see no one in the audience that requests speaking. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
And that is correct. I did not receive any cards, and there are no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. So I will close the public hearing. And now I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-23.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes. Thank you. And yes. And the motion is carried 6 in favor with one member not with us. So 6-0. Thank you. Our next item, and I believe our staff member Boniface is going to present this as well. This is a 167 F Street to consider a conditional use permit. And so Assistant Planning, let's see, Planner will give the staff report tonight, and it's Boniface Shifamba. Did I do that properly?
Yes, you got
Great.
it right.
Thank you.
Once again, good evening, Commissioners. The 167 F Street conditional use permit application is an application for the construction of a single-family dwelling. This single-family dwelling comes with an attached JADU and a detached ADU. Just to give a brief explanation, JADUs share same building and facilities as the primary dwelling unit. And usually detached ADUs are self-contained. They have their own provisions, sleeping, cooking, and sanitation. This single-family dwelling unit is going to be located in the business and professional district, where where residential or single-family dwelling units are actually a conditional use, which is subject to a conditional use permit. In the business and professional district, the business and professional district is actually surrounded by properties zoned commercial to the west and single-family residential district to the east. BP, the same business and professional zone, conditional uses. At the top of the list is the single-family dwellings, among others, clinics, clubhouse, and so many. So I just put this up to highlight the point that residential uses are conditional uses in the business and professional district. Project location and land use compatibility. Let me hasten to say our mission tonight is to determine whether this proposed single-family dwelling unit is compatible with its surroundings. When established, is it going to be in harmony with all the adjacent uses within its neighborhood? So, as you can see, this is the project location over here. Over here across the street, we have residential units. And this is a residential district all over this side. And just adjacent to the site, we also have a couple of residential units. And down here, we do have the dentistry. Up here, we have the Heritage Foundation. And as we move further, we see a number of residential units scattered around and commercial business operations also. This is 2nd Street, and this is East Street, 1st Street, Lincoln Boulevard, and down here we have 1st Street. So as we deliberate, I want us to, if we may pay attention to the idea that the focus is on determining whether this use is in harmony or is going to be in harmony with its surroundings. The conditional use permit establishes the single family dwelling unit only. It doesn't have anything to do with the ADU, accessory dwelling units. As a result, in our quest to try and establish whether the proposed single-family dwelling is going to be in harmony with its surroundings or is going to be compatible with surroundings, we do have findings that are actually derived from our code. The first finding seeks to establish whether the proposed land use is substantially similar in character to other uses currently within the district. I think that has been amply answered by that area of view where we saw a number of residential units similar to the one that is being proposed. So yes, that finding, I think, has been justified. Would this use be appropriate in the district and applicable to the property as permitted? If we look at the business and professional district, this is a conditional use. And the proposal is consistent with the requirements of the business and professional district. And that consistency makes it an applicable and appropriate conditional use in that district. Oh, sorry. As to whether the proposed land use will not endanger the welfare of the public, the answer is no. A new house adds to our housing stock. It adds to, in its own small way, adds to the tax base for the city, and also it adds to our regional housing needs allocation. So this is something positive. And the last finding would be that at least one of the findings in section 1532 of the 1532-5 of the municipal code is satisfied. That section talks about flood zone. This proposed use is not going to be in an area that is a flood zone. It's going to be in an established area in between land uses that are already functional. In terms of consistency, the project is consistent with the general plan, zoning and business codes. It's going to be exempt from CEQA guidelines under class 32 of the infill development. And once again, it is compatible with surrounding land uses. As part of our recommendations, staff recommends the Planning Commission to determine the project categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under Class 32 of the infill development. And also, secondly, we recommend the Planning Commission to adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit for the construction of these single-family residents in the business and professional zone, subject to conditions of approval attached to the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments for staff? Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
I see on your list of what we're finding today is that the project is consistent with the general plan. I wonder about that. Certainly, it hits the objectives of the general plan for infill development, for compact development. But Land Use 2.9 policy on innovative design reads that the city shall encourage the use of alleys and side-loaded garages to de-emphasize the garage as a predominant visual feature of a residence. If you could put a slide up there that shows the front elevation, I have a point to make. Can you do that? It was on your staff report.
It was there. I think what I have right now are floor plans and the site plan.
Okay. Well, the elevation shows a two-car garage, a very narrow entryway, and a one-car garage, all facing the street. So what you have in effect is a pretty good imitation of a fire station in a residential neighborhood. All that you see are the doors and a narrow entryway. There is no lawn or landscaping possible if it's all driveway aprons to the street. What is really unfortunate is that it has access to an alley, and it would just seem to be the right thing to do to have the garages fronting on the alley, and you'd be better able to maximize the use of the lot. You'd have an attractive street frontage. The Taylor organization is pretty well known for its innovative and high quality design. And I think they may have slipped here. And I wonder if we can do anything about it.
We can just take a real quick pause. The city, this has nothing to do with your comment, Commissioner Johnson. The city is in the process of implementing the provisions of the Levine Act, which have to do with the requirements of certain appointed or elected officials to recuse themselves in light of certain campaign donations. And we just got around today to getting a form completed by the applicant on this project. And because of that, I was just made aware of the form, and Ms. Eklund is required to recuse herself from this matter. So we just wanted to take a real quick pause and allow her to do that.
Yep, so I will recuse myself. I'll be back.
Thank you.
Did you want the applicant to comment on
Comment?
the
Yes, the
design,
applicant
on the
is here,
design of the
that'd be great.
building? And I would just kind of, we spoke, but reiterate that the design is, we did make the applicant aware of the two driveways in the front. And maybe he can articulate, the design has not, we're not making a decision on the design of the building right now. But we can advise per your recommend or
Could I
comments.
ask a question that might be helpful both for us and for the applicant? Are the conditions of approval of the development requiring alleyway improvements?
We haven't gotten to that point yet because they're going to be submitting to building and then we'll
But
make the
normally they
comments.
would be, wouldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
So the applicant is here. All right, and we don't need to wait for a public hearing to have him speak to this? I'm asking. All right, and then we will have him address them. All right, thank you. And I'll open public hearing at that time, and then we will hear from him. Yes, Commissioner Reedy.
So I just wanted to clarify on the steps we're taking. So this just approves that a home can be built there, and then the home that will be built there will come later.
Exactly. This is a land use decision to get a CUP in a BP zone.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the design of the building.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, then I will open it to a public hearing, and then we can hear from the applicant. Public hearing is now open. And would you like to speak to the concern of Commissioner Johnson, please? And what is your name?
For when you're comfortable with.
Yes.
And just for anyone, any of the public that may be listening, we typically, when the applicant speaks during public comment, we do not put a time restriction on them because they
All right.
are the proponent for the project.
Right, thank you.
Well, thank you guys for hearing this. Thanks, Boniface, for your hard work. Also, thanks, Lindy, on the call. I've been working closely with her for the last few years, so thank you, Lindy. With respect to the comment about the alley, we do have the detached ADU is being loaded by the alley. So that is separate structure, separate from the main structure, which is being served by the alleyway. And the balance of the site is sort of the backyard courtyard of the main unit and the detached ADU. Sort of drove some of the design decisions, how the structures were loaded. We couldn't have fit 3 units on that lot without all of them being served by the alley.
I don't quite understand because if the garages were on the back side of the house, seems like you would have more area in front of the house to do other things with.
There is some landscaping in the front of the house, I will mention that. The site plan will show
That'll be
that.
the entryways, not all you could do.
There also, we are proposing landscaping in between the 2 driveways. But the site planning, as I understand it, would not have worked out with the 3 units all being served from the alley. That the detached ADU is a separate, distinct structure that is being served by the alley.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Johnson? All right. I think that one of the challenges that we have is that Commissioner Johnson, the general plan, as you know, is a living document and is what it goes back to 2008. If memory serves me correctly, we will be looking at it in the future. And the other challenge that we have is that we just a couple of months ago talked about ADUs and JDUs and how they are being welcomed within our state. And so this is something new for us. To answer your question, I did read the documentation very carefully, and there was a lot of discussion regarding landscaping and children playing and grass and so forth. The one question I wanted to ask, because I just didn't know, this will be a 2-story home, the main
correct,
house.
The main structure.
And what I couldn't remember is, are there other 2-story homes in the area, or will it just stick out?
No, there's other.
There are, that's what
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
but I just didn't take the time to go look at the infill project to see that. But other than that, I had no other comments. Do any of my colleagues have any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Gilbert.
Thank you, Chair. know, it's a new world, as we all found out some months ago, where the state has taken certain actions preempting what local planning commissions can and cannot do with these types of units. So it's a new world, but I think we have to be open to the fact that we have a very significant housing issue. Very significant. Personally, I've always been of the mind, let's do everything we can to get people into a home. It started on that process, allowed me to get into a very inexpensive small home, and I ended up with a very expensive, very large home that I sold when I moved here to Lincoln. And my family, all the pleasures of living in your own home. I'd like to afford that to everybody I can in America. Oh, I don't like the state telling us what to do. The reason that they did it has a lot of merit, and I'm much in favor of getting people into homes at an affordable level. Life is possible before time runs out on them and their family is mature and, you know, they're not in a position to start moving into a home. So I'm very much in favor of this concept. And I think we're going to see more and more and more of this. Those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else here? Do we have anyone online? Any hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you. And with that, I will close our public hearing. And thank you again for your comments. All right, and I will bring it back to our commission. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-24.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. May we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
I'm going to vote yes, in large measure because I agree wholeheartedly with Peter's analysis and position on EDUs. But I still am very disappointed with the design and would hope that the developer would take a second look at that as he goes through the remainder of the approval process. So I vote yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
Chair Hutchison.
Yes. Motion carried 6-0. 5, that's right, correct. Thank you. 501.
Thank you, Commissioner.
5011.
1-1.
Yeah, 5-0 for noes and 1 abstain or recused and 1 absent.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And our next item on our agenda is the municipal code update, permit expirations and extensions. And Michaela Noble, Assistant Planner, will give the staff report this evening.
All right, okay, you can hear me. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Nice to see you all again. Michaela Noble with the Community Development Department. I'm an assistant planner here. The item we have before you is a public hearing to consider amending Title 18 of the Lincoln Municipal Code regarding permit expirations and extensions. First, some background on the city's current procedures for permit expirations and time extensions. Currently, the zoning ordinance is inconsistent on how it addresses initial approval terms and time extension allowances for discretionary permits. The table above summarizes the city's current code. City staff also frequently receives time extension requests for approved permits. For example, 2 time extension applications have been processed within the past year, and you just heard one about half an hour ago. These requests are very common for various reasons, such as constraints in implementing conditions of approval, changes in ownership, and financial and economic limitations, just to name a few. City staff is proposing to amend Title 18 to define the approval terms of discretionary permits for an initial 4-year period, unless conditioned by the decision-making body for an alternative length of time. The amendments also provide projects a one-time 2-year time extension opportunity. Time extension requests will be reviewed and approved or denied by the Community Development Director. This table here just summarizes the proposed amendments and the corresponding code sections and permit types that will be affected. Currently, Title 18 lacks consistent application of permit approval terms and time extensions. The proposed amendments should address this inadequacy. Staff researched local jurisdiction zoning ordinances while trying to determine an appropriate length of time for initial approval and time extension terms. Staff found that other jurisdictions have initial approval terms of 2 to 3 years and are consistent across all permit types. Right now, the city's approval terms vary in length from 1 to 5 years or are not specified for some permit types. The proposed initial approval period of 4 years is only 1 year more than current practices within the local region. In regard to time extension allowances, jurisdictions vary in their approach. In total, the potential life of a discretionary permit ranges from 4 to 9 years in our region. Staff is proposing the potential life of an entitlement to be 6 years, which is consistent with local jurisdictions' regulations. Staff also attempted to find some kind of rationale or justification explaining why permit approval and time extension terms are the way they are and couldn't find any. It's just matter of fact. Don't have anything for that. While staff's proposal of an initial approval term of 4 years for all discretionary permits is slightly greater than others in our area, the proposal aligns with the approval term for tentative maps. Title 17 subdivisions was amended back in 2022 to increase the initial life of a tentative map to 4 years. Tentative maps are a significant entitlement, and other discretionary permits are considered to be secondary. As previously mentioned, staff couldn't find any justification on why jurisdictions adopted their specific approval terms. Therefore, staff couldn't really find a reason not to align our discretionary permits with tentative maps. The proposed amendments would also simplify city procedures and provide consistency across all planning entitlements. There are many instances when a project has multiple entitlements being approved on the same day, and this just makes it easier to track efforts of trying to determine when these project expirations take place. The amendments would also provide some flexibility to the applicant. There are several reasons why an applicant requests a time extension, and increasing the initial approval period accounts for any delays that an applicant may encounter. For example, designs reviews are currently only approved for 1 year. It is unlikely that an applicant can comply with all the required conditions of approval prior to that entitlement expiring. As a result, the applicant must submit a time extension application. This requires a $3,000 fee to be paid in order to cover staff work and materials. While these applications are relatively simple, they do require an extensive amount of time for staff to prepare the documents and your guys' time as well being here tonight. While these the proposed amendments should also reduce the number of time extension applications that the city receives and cut some costs for the applicant. The Planning Commission is required to hold a public hearing on any proposed amendments to Title 18 and make a recommendation to City Council in accordance with the Lincoln Municipal Code. Staff recommends the Planning Commission determine that the Title 18 amendments comply with CEQA guidelines and adopt a resolution recommending City Council adopt an ordinance approving the proposed amendments. Thank you for your guys' time. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent information and excellent documentation as well for us to review. Coming back to our commission, do I have any comments for staff?
It seems like a no-brainer. We still have the ability to shorten the length of time if needed. Otherwise, it can save staff time and money for applicants. So
Yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely have the
there's no reason.
caveat in there that, unless the decision maker wants to request or ask for a different period of time, shorter than 4 years, it's in our ability to do that.
Mhm.
It streamlines the process, which I think is beneficial to all. And Commissioner Johnson, did you have a comment or a question?
All of the above. In addition to extending the time for a development permit to 4 years, we're also taking away the authority of the Planning Commission to approve or disapprove a time extension. And I'd like just a brief discussion, if we could, on under what circumstances could either the staff or the Planning Commission refuse the extension. Well, let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say the city is going through a tough economic time. They haven't had any building permits for the past 18 months. No one's knocking on the door. Sales tax revenues are shallow, to say the best. And a development comes along which is a very unattractive, marginally economically viable development, but hey, it's something to approve and get on the ground. Now, 4 years passes or 3 years, and the economy is different. People are clamoring for building permits. There are people knocking on the door for major development. Would it be then appropriate for the Planning Commission and or staff, I guess, to not approve the extension so that we'd have an opportunity to have a higher, more attractive, higher economically justifiable project that is more attractive and would serve the citizens of the city better? And I guess that's partly a city attorney question and partly a question to Christian or the rest of the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up the points that are, pertinent to expiration. I guess I would argue that, or not argue, but kind of rely on our extension findings that the extension findings don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of reevaluating the design of an approved project, that's not a consideration. We don't reconsider the project at the time of time extension. The time extension is granted due to the circumstances that the applicant's facing. So, and, with the Deer Crossing project as well, that we did the time extension for, we discussed that at that hearing. And, it was not an opportunity to revisit the design of the project. So, and then I would also just say that, again, the commission would have, if they were seeing that, or if they were saying, okay, we're going to approve this project that's subpar, we're going to approve it. Maybe that's the time to put that condition of like, we're going to give you a limited time frame here. We're going to keep you on a 2-year permit expiration, and or if you do need an extension, this should be brought back for the Planning Commission to reconsider. But at the end of the day, when it comes back to you to reconsider, your hands are tied in terms of doing what you're saying, in terms of revisiting the actual design of that project. So that might need to be addressed.
Yeah, that wasn't quite my question. It was just not to approve the extension. We're not redesigning it. It means that whoever's doing the development, and it may at that point change hands, but
Right.
that new party.
But how do you justify that? How do you justify not, you have to make a finding that you're not going to extend it. You can't just say, we're not extending it. What's
is
the,
that- okay,
what would
is
be
that-
the reason?
Do you need a reason?
Yeah,
It's,
I mean,
it's,
I think
Yeah, you
any,
do.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
otherwise, it's a subjective issue of,
Right,
gee,
the extension requests typically come when there have been extenuating circumstances, as you saw on the one this morning. There was COVID, there was, the inability to get plans or maps or something approved. The contractor couldn't mobilize, et cetera, et cetera.
Financing
So,
is typically.
sure, financing, that's a big one. And so it really turns on the question of the diligence of the applicant as opposed to the merits of the project, which have already been considered. And so I think Christian's comments are a fair one. If a future commission were looking at a project and thinking, well, this is kind of a stopgap, we don't like it that much, and if the economy turns around in 2 or 3 years, we want to have a second bite of the apple, then it has to be baked into the cake at the time it's approved, as opposed to trying to come back and say, gotcha, several years later. So the conditions that you're really looking at when you come to an extension are, what was the due diligence that was performed by the applicant? And have they, are they stuck by certain circumstances like financing, like COVID, like those types of force majeure almost types of circumstances that prevented them from advancing their project?
Then I think in the absence of much of any discretion on our part on the renewal of the project, then there's no point in us being in the process, and staff can make that determination.
I think that's why we're bringing this to your attention, is just because
point.
it seems pretty
Yeah, that's the point behind
ineffectual.
this.
But it does keep them on a leash in a way, they're aware of a time allotted. So I think we're just trying to align it with,
The way this is worded,
Permits
have
across
you
board.
given up the ability to have a 3-year approval?
Like an initial approval?
yeah.
No, so essentially, there's a bit of language that says unless the decision-making body says, hey, they wanted 4 years, it's too much, let's do 3, let's do 2, depending on the project. Again, it needs to be
Yeah.
a justified reason as to why we're doing that. It could maybe be vetted out during this process right here if, you guys have some major concerns and want to trim it down a little bit. That's absolutely in our discretion and in our power to do so. So we're not taking that opportunity away.
Latitude is there.
Yeah.
Anyone else for a comment? Yes, Commissioner Reedy.
So I wanted to follow up on that, actually. So where is it in the proposed code changes and how will it work?
Yeah, let me bring that up for you guys. So you're looking for the language essentially that says unless, okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me just.
I'm just
scroll
trying to figure out
through.
how
Yeah.
it works that it wouldn't be 4. Like, what's the process for that? And whether it's stipulated in code.
Right, so if IT could bring up the screen.
I think you just had that sentence that said, or if
Yeah, so I'll bring up this.
otherwise conditions.
Yes, so this section right here, let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. This is for conditional use permits and variances, for example, but right here it says that it's valid for 4 years unless the conditional use permit or variance is conditioned with an alternate time expiration limit. So the process essentially would be, we're reviewing the project and we're like, this could be a little bit controversial to the public. We receive a lot of public comments, maybe we can trim it down a little bit, or we can have conversations and based on your feedback, if you guys are reviewing the conditions and you're like, hey, we don't want this to be 4 years, we want to do it for this period of time, we can add that into the conditions at that period of time.
And I think that would be, sorry to jump in, but just an opportunity to really think about it and give us the reason and justification and articulate that, as opposed to just this absence of justification, which it bothers me. I think all planners, just having some kind of arbitrary time frame, like give us the reasons, let's air out the concerns, let's bake it into the condition so that the applicant is aware and, understands why he's up against a time limit.
Okay, so this is just because I'm not a legal expert. So this one section, 185470, has what you've retermed void from disuse.
Mhm.
And that section will apply to all discretionary permits.
This one will just be for conditional use permits, but there's similar language I'll bring up. Let's see. Under section 1832, 170, For development permits, the last sentence states that, second to last, a development permit not exercised within 4 years of approval shall expire and become void unless a condition of approval specifies an alternative time expiration limit. So there's, that one's covered. And then for design review, that will be our last amendment, which is 1867060. This is expiration of approval specifically for design reviews. And this language is also provided in here. Effect. It is not in here. We can easily add that though. Thank you for that catch. This is why I have this Word document up.
I would just add while she's typing that if this doesn't work, we can change the code back to 3 years. If we crowdsource the reasons that this is a bad thing, we'll dial it back, you know? So there's always that option too.
I don't have any issues with the direction and the clarity and all that. It's just being consistent and making sure that it's clear that if we have cause to, and there's a good reason to not have 4 years, that we make sure we have that ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
appreciate you bringing that up.
And Vice Chair Gilbert, you had a comment or a question?
It's really a comment, and it's going to be based on the fact that I have very little hair, and that I have is a different color than most people. I've been around this thing process for a long time, both on the side where I had to make applications, where I had to approve loans, and then in my public life, serving on 2 city councils and a planning commission. City, unfortunately, has had a bad reputation historically about the way we treat development. And it has improved significantly. I can tell you from my perspective, the meetings that I have with developers, with builders, we're viewed almost as good as the very development supportive communities in this, where people have a choice between coming to town A or town B, and town B adopts things like this that sends a message that we want to work with you, and we want to try innovative or new ways of doing things. Really plays well in the development community. Looking at it from a developer standpoint, having been one small one at some time, I've talked a little bit about, interest rates, conditions. You have a period of time where condos are very popular and you're ready to go on that, and all of a sudden they fall out and everybody wants to finance and build residential, single-family homes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a moving target out there for those folks. And historically, if you look at it, the majority of them have gone broke. Lasted tend to be very large, very creative, very innovative, and very deep-pocketed people. So I think we have to, as a city, say, we want to attract as much development as we can. We then get to make the decision through our staff and then through the planning process of the city council, what we're going to approve. But we want to attract as much as we can. It's like shopping. You want as much choice as you can and as much variety. And times change. What we like today may change in 5 years, but this is a step in the right direction. This is saying to those people that are putting risk capital on the table, spending a lot of time and money to eventually get a project before the city, that we're willing to do the best job we can to make life as best and not cause you grief because you did business with our city. And now, from now on, you're going to go to Roseville or Rockland or somewhere else instead of Lincoln. I'm trying to, maybe I haven't articulated it well, but I want to fly that flag that says we're open for business in Lincoln come on here and we'll work with you. And this is a step in the right direction. So I want to applaud the staff for bringing this to us. I think it's a major step in the right direction. And as staff has already said, if it ain't good, we can always change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, I'll just keep my comment very, very brief, and it echoes much of what you just said, is that my experience in the development community, which was as a staff member for many years, working on the staff side, hearing from the development community is what they needed is consistency and assurances. You know, we need to do things the same way. When I go and get an approval, you're not going to change it down the road. I understand what's coming, and I have that assurance that you're not going to change that. So I think, as you mentioned, this is a step in the right direction, and I support it.
I echo all of the above. Anyone else? No? Hearing, seeing none. I would now like to open public hearing. We have no one in the audience. However, we may have people on Zoom. So citizens wishing to speak on this item may request to speak by raising your hand on Zoom and keep your comments to 3 minutes. So the public hearing is open. Do we have anyone on Zoom raising their hands?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. I will now close public hearing. And now I will bring it back to the commission, and I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-25.
I so move.
Second.
Second, I have a motion on the floor and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Just for clarification, with the amendment that Michaela will revise the language for 18.67.060. Thank you. Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes?
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Our next item is general business. I see that there are no general business items before us. And so commissioner comments. Do any of my colleagues have any comments? Well, I do. You guys can't get away without me saying something. And I try to be kind. And I want to tell you that in 2012, when the Fiscal Sustainability Commission was working with the city, I was very proud to be part of that. And one of the recommendations that we came up with was communication from the city with our citizens. And one of those items was coffee with the mayor. And I am so delighted to say that all of our mayors have been very kind about coming out to the various associations and speaking. And I had the privilege a couple of days ago to sit in on the coffee with the mayor when Councilman Joyner was there, along with an employee of the city that I had not had an opportunity to meet as yet, and that was Aaron Fry. And I will tell you, I am just delighted with the presentation, the experience, the exciting things that are going on in economic development. And I think that we all should, if we haven't done so as yet, we should have an opportunity to meet this young lady. And of course, to me, everybody's young. And I was, as I said, I was very, very pleased, and I just wanted that on record. So thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. And with that, I don't believe I need a motion to adjourn. So we are adjourned. We'll see you all in September.
Very good meeting, Madam Chair.
Yes. My pleasure.
And Christian, thanks for the advance notice on August. That,
Yes.